good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Risk to Revenue. We're really excited again to have Ryan to talk about yet another conversation on cyber insurance. But before we get into that, Ryan, how you been? It's been a hot minute.
Been a minute, man. Doing well. I've had my head down, been out of the show cycles for a little bit, getting some work done at the office. And man, what are we? We're a week out from Thanksgiving. So man, we're getting into that time of the year. I got a text this morning. My mom said, make sure you take your turkey out of the freezer. It said, it's already that time.
Have you ever done like one of those deep fried turkeys in the big fried pot of oil, or you ever done one?
I have not. I have honestly wanted to try it for a few years now. I've been seeing it online every year. I think we always see those videos, but they look fun. But man, I just can't get away from the old school turkey in the bag in the oven, like just the way we've always done it.
A little stuffing in there, put an apple, whatever. Yeah. So, as you know, my wife Maureen's a nurse for 20 years, 30 year, whatever, and she always had to work one of the holidays. She'd always pick Thanksgiving, which meant I was home alone or whatever, and the kids are with their dad. And so, I don't know, probably 10, 12 years ago, my sister-in-law's mother, amazing cook, blah, blah, blah. She's like, you should come over. And so every year since then, we've been going to my sister-in-law's mother, who's not my mother, but and she would do 2 turkeys. She would do all the fixings. And I was like, great. All I have to do is show up with Tupperware.
That's right.
Now it's become the family tradition. Show up to Donnie and Terry's with Tupperware, and I can eat until I puke and then bring home.
In a sleeping bag, right?
Pretty much. Yeah, the tryptophan.
That's right. Little turkey nap.
What is your one favorite food thing? Like, what is one thing that you love about or eat or whatever with Thanksgiving?
I'm gonna have to go with Mom's pecan pie. It's the only time she makes it. She waits every year for Thanksgiving, so I don't know if it's because I'm only getting it once a year, but yeah, I'm going to go with that sweet treat pecan pie.
I love pecan pie. It is my favorite. It's all right, this sounds gross, but I don't care. The turkey skin and the pecan pie, and I'm fine.
I like it.
So that's it. It's the only 2 things. Oh, well, maybe the green bean casserole with the onions on top.
There you go. Another classic.
So, speaking of Thanksgiving and holidays and whatnot, I'm supposed to mention that we are a proud sponsor of this year's holidays. I'm not sure if Connect Secure is or not. Part of Channel Program, like $16,000 worth of prizes. The ability to actually, win a nice gift, whether it's headphones or gift cards. There's some really great and amazing prizes here for MSPs, right? There's a bunch of us here that have been sponsoring. So this is a fan favorite, fun thing that, a lot of us in the MSP, it's not just about winning a prize. It's about getting that little special something, right? Like we work our necks off day after day, month after month after month. And so holidays is a really great way to just kind of bring and give a little back to the community. So go check it out, channelprogram.com/holidays. And since I'm doing this, Ryan, why don't you come up and say hello?
Yeah, awesome. A good call out to holidays. I don't know if Connect Secure is doing that. I know we're involved in a couple of those give back foundations, especially around holiday time, right? We always think about those less fortunate thus, especially around these times of the year. So that's awesome. Good shout out. Nice job, Channel Program and Compliance Scorecard and all those other MSP vendors. I saw some logos on there I recognize. So awesome to see our community coming together, giving back, making opportunities for others. But yeah, good to be here. Ryan Seymour, VP Consulting Education at Connect Secure, vulnerability management platform. I've been working in the MSP industry for about 20 years now. Worked on all sides of the fence at the MSP level, at the vendor level, now most recently leading cybersecurity. And day to day, I assist with curating education and consulting content for our partners that are using our platform. And I'm also helping our professional services teams on delivering co-managed consulting and vulnerability management for our partners. So great to be here. Tim, what is this? Like number 10 on the series we've done? Man, we've done a bunch of these this year. So good to be back.
We started this last winter, maybe February-ish, and been doing it every other week since. Sometimes you're traveling, I'm traveling. Like, I think we're winding down though, and we're looking at what 2026 is going to look like. We'll still be doing them week after week, but every other week, bringing in other additional guest speakers as well. So, we're really excited to plan out what 26 looks like. But yeah, we're going to finish 25 strong. So I suppose I should do my little intro. Hey, everybody, Tim Golden, founder and CEO of Compliance Scorecard, where we help MSPs have the risk conversation with their companies and their clients and all that fun stuff. You can come join us live demo, see the link at the bottom. We'd love to be able to have you hold those every week as an opportunity for you guys to come in and see what we're all about here. But yeah, thank you so much. Ryan, cyber insurance and some of the common requirements around cyber, right? So, when we think about some of these common things, what comes to mind?
No, I'll be selfish and say vulnerability management
Check.
Comes to mind. I think we're seeing that. We're seeing evidence of that more and more show up everywhere in regulatory. I'm thinking, and then of our traditional stuff, I think that everybody else is doing: antivirus, endpoint security, MFA. How many times we heard MFA?
Still talking MFA.
Still talking MFA. MFA is the old AI now, man. That's what's happening. User awareness training, of course, right? You got to have your user awareness training, and of course, business continuity, or as we like to call it, backups. You need to be taking backups. So, the proper hygiene, the big 5 or 6 things I think that most MSPs are doing, but surprisingly, a lot aren't doing it.
This is true.
So yeah, it's a hot topic.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like, a lot are not, but a lot are, right? I deal with a lot of cyber liability insurance companies. We integrate with a bunch of them. Talking to whether it's Yukon, formerly Fifth Wall, DataStream, Beltex, talking with all of them. There are some common things, right? MFA is always the biggest one. Do you do MFA? On what? On where? On how? On who?
Bingo.
Right. And that conversation, like, it's so funny, like, such a generic, do you do MFA? Well, Ryan, you and I both know, right? And MSP technicians and owners and up and down the MSP chain know, like, it's more than just, do you do it? Yes or no. It's like, do my switches have multi-factor authentication? Maybe. Is that a thing? Does my M365 have does my Facebook or my Instagram or my Twitter, right? And I think, there's always that confusion of when, cyber insurance genericizes, is that a word? Makes it generic on a thing. It's pretty easy to understand. Do you back up? Yes or no. But do you MFA? It's kind of not a true, false, yes, no question, is it, right?
No, it's not. Yeah, you need context around it.
So, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Tim.
So if I think of like the categories of things, right? Multi-factor, we've talked about that. We don't need to beat that up too much. Backups, right? And here's what I'm seeing with a lot of the insurance carriers that we work with, is that now they're starting to dig a little deeper. Now, instead of just asking, do you MFA, they'll ask, are all administrative accounts that have access rights, that have admin kind of privileges, do they have MFA? And it's not necessarily a yes no thing, right? We've been doing a lot of work and like automating and pulling stuff out of Microsoft. If we look at what happened to an organization in Ontario not too long ago, $18 million, ransomware, blah 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 blah, impacted them huge, and their cyber liability insurance company denied them. Now they answered the questionnaire. They said yes to MFA, blah, 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 blah. And they did have MFA, but not on every account. And it wasn't enforced. So there was accounts. So can things look into, MFA or no? And they assumed, MFA, like, okay, we have it, but we didn't have it widespread. And that's how, the incident happened. Somebody got a compromised account that didn't have MFA, like the things. And so cyber liability insurance looked and was like, you said you had it. These didn't have it. They got it in from an account that didn't have it. We're out. So when we think of how deep do we go on some of these things, like MFA, backup's pretty easy. They used to say next gen firewall or next gen AV, whatever, EDR, MDR, firewall, those kinds of categories of things. A big one that I'm seeing more and more now is P&P. They used to just ask, do you have an incident response plan? Do you have one document? Now they're digging deeper. Do you have these policies? Do you have these groups of SOPs and procedures? And this is what I'm hearing from the insurance world is it's more than just a yes, no box now. It's how are you doing this work and how are you governing and maintaining that, right? Even NIST and CIS talks about some of this stuff, right? Highlighting common requirements there. Ryan, I know you spend some time in CIS. What have you seen around that as well as it relates to common requirements?
Yeah, you said a couple of things there that kind of struck me, and I'm taking some notes because I wanted to comment on them. I heard a lot of things, excuse me, that I wanted to comment on, but I think you nailed it. Again, I'm not let's full disclosure here. I'm not a cybersecurity insurance expert by any stretch of the imagination.
Neither am I. I just talk to them a lot.
I talk to them a lot. I hear about stuff. I'm always listening and reading. So I know quite a bit, but I'm definitely not an expert. But what I know in the short amount of time that I've been really looking in and around cyber insurance with partners is the landscape's changing fast. Those insurance adjusters and professionals they're almost like auditors now. It feels like you're getting a full audit all of a sudden, as opposed to it just being a checkbox or a yes or no. Do you do the thing? Yes, I do. Now it's like, how do you do it? Where do you do it? Why do you do it? And so things are getting complex really quick. And to your point, across all the industry, we have all of the 3-letter acronyms, 4-letter acronyms. We have all these governing bodies and what I call is the alphabet soup, right? CIS and NIST and CISA and FedRAMP and ISO and all of these things that have standards and frameworks developed that talk about what proper cyber hygiene looks like in those industries. We see those common threads throughout all of them. Doesn't matter what industry you're operating in. EDR and backup and vuln management and user awareness training is becoming the normal for everybody in every industry. And honestly, I think it's a bit refreshing. I think it's a step in the right direction. And it's one of the reasons why we don't have a common national standard for everybody to follow, is because everybody wants to have their custom things in their own way. But obviously that's led to a lot of confusion, a lot of overlap, a lot of cross-pollination, dare I use cross-mapping, right? Yeah. All of that stuff starts coming into play. So boiling all that down, carriers are raising the bar on the MSPs. Let's just call it what it is. Yeah. Carriers are raising the bar on these guys. And I think you said it, Tim, documentation is king right now. Right. We are all doing the work. MSPs are doing the work, But what they're not doing in many cases, at least from where I've seen and sat, is they don't have the documentation in place. They don't have a policy set up for everything. They have one or two for the normal things that they have to do business. But you called out a couple. I want to call those out. Incident response. You better have a plan for that. Let's call out vulnerability management. You need a plan for that. You don't just start running scans. I'll quote our CISO and Brian Blakely. Scanning is not a strategy. The strategy comes from the document. So, man, that to me is what becomes most important of all, at least on the technical side of what you need to have in place to not only get a cybersecurity insurance policy, but more get paid for a claim. Because that's
sorry, really, really great points, right? Having proper documentation, as you said, insurance companies are getting a little smarter, right? It's all about the actuary data. Like the more they learn, the more they're going to refine. They've had 100,000 years of car insurance and life insurance and whatever to get that data. Cyber in that regards is such a young industry. And we were like, what are you talking about, a young industry? No. Like in terms of cyber insurance, that as a product, as a thing, it's so new and young, but it's also very important, right? And as they start to get more data, start to understand what protects stuff, defends stuff, and has, more data, they are going to start to drive more standards, right? If you think about getting life insurance, are you a male that smokes and drinks and does this and does that? Like, obviously they have data that proves these things. As cyber insurance matures, they're going to start asking and they're going to start refining, do you have this? Do you have that? Are you doing? And it all comes down to what defensibility are you building as an MSP for yourself and your customers, right? And it's not just a spot in time. How are you, managing and collecting and dealing with that evidence, that defensibility day after month after week after year, right? It's not just a one time you go to the doctor, like you need physical therapy throughout the course of the year. And how are you, kind of keeping that organized, and so that you are prepared for when something happens. Ryan, you mentioned incident response plan, right? The best time to deal with your incident response plan is not during an incident. Now, you should be doing it, hopefully at least annual tabletops against your IRP, and then refining your IRP at least annually. There's a lot of great things. IR Games, my good buddy Bob Miller, he's got IR Games. It's an online, run weekly incident response game. You should be doing those kinds of things and constantly iterating. When I think, and I kind of go down, how detailed does the proof need to be, though, for insurance? Do they just want a yes, no, or do they actually need screenshots and reports and logs?
Yeah, again, I would say the more the merrier here, right? Less is not more when we're dealing with evidence and artifacts. So, for me, it's like the documentation, the policy, the program, and the screenshots and the logs and the backup settings, etc. Like all the things that can show I can prove what I said I'm doing in those policies. Yeah. And you nailed the word. I love the word defensibility because that's what makes you defensible all of a sudden. I got the tool.
I didn't coin that word. I've just been repurposing it because it makes sense.
No, it's a great use of the word because it literally transforms you from having just a scanning or a tool that is very ambiguous to now I can prove what I said I'm doing. And that to me becomes defensible. Underwriters want verifiable evidence, right? They don't want you to just say yes, no, or check the box anymore. I don't think that's good enough. You might come across some of those, but I don't think you're going to see too many of those going forward. So I just think the more the merrier. And honestly, the more documentation and the more prepared you are. Think about what that also does. Not only does it grease the skids for your contract renewals to take place, right? Less back and forth when you're trying to get a contract or renew with an underwriter. If you have all your stuff organized, that process goes fast. It also prepares you internally, so you have a plan. You know what's going on because you went through the strategy, and there's no shortcut to that. There's not a checkbox. You have to go through that process and practice it. And then, obviously there's all these other benefits that come from having that documentation done. And the big thing for me is the word consistency. You want to drive consistency, and that's how you do it.
Exactly. And that's, I love the word consistency, right? Because you know what? You're probably already doing most of this stuff. Yeah. You probably have a SAT, you probably have a VMP, you probably have an IRP, you're probably doing 80 to 90% of these things already. But what you're not doing is centralizing, standardizing, and walking your customer through the business outcomes of being standardized. Right? When I ran my MSP, tight ship. Okay, I learned my lesson because I needed to understand downstream the why. So that's a very important conversation of talking with your customers around why we're doing this. So yes, bring that in. But standardization, dude, when we level set, wrote everything down, brought everybody on the same page, they understood the what, they understood the how, they more importantly the why. Our ticket count went to like 3 a week. Across 9 locations, couple hundred people, thousands of our tickets went to like 3 or 4 a week. I had to scramble to find work for architects because everything was a documented, repeatable process. Everybody understood it all the way down through our end customer to, Johnny janitor, Sally secretary, the guy sweeping the floor, to the CEO that didn't want to do the things, but understood why we did the things. And our ticket count plummeted, which is obviously good for us. We could spend more time on project work as an MSP. Once we had that centralized, standardized, documented, repeatable processes that understood the why and had buy-in all the way up and down the chain around why, everything kind of got easier. And for 20 years, never had an incident. Never had a reportable incident across any of our customers. And by the way, some of those were federal governments. That's because you took the time to build a standardized, documented, repeatable stuff and understood the why. And insurance carriers are starting to become keen on that. Back up 3 years, do you have an IRP? Was explicitly called out. Now they're getting a little deeper.
Yeah, alignment, man. Align. You nailed it. I think the other thing I just want to call out and remind you guys, like everything you said, spot on, Tim. Have those documented, repeatable, predictable processes. It drives consistency. It drives scalability, right? It optimizes margins because you know what to expect. You know how to staff for that kind of stuff when you know what your processes are. If you don't, things are just drifting all over the place. But once you've established that, and again, I talk to organizations that have processes documented. They have these things. But when I ask them to see them, let's take a look at that thing. It ain't been touched in 3 years. It ain't been touched in 5 years. It ain't been touched in 9 months. So I'll tell you right now, what I was doing 6 months ago ain't the same thing I'm doing today.
Yeah.
So I would also call out continuous improvement is absolutely critical to maintaining compliance, maintaining proper governance in and around all the things you need to do that we've talked about. You can't just do it once and be like, oh, all right, we did it. We're done. Let's move on. You got to keep that thing in front. You make it part of the culture. But more importantly, if you're a leader here, you got to give your people time to do that. I have come across so many organizations that nobody gets time to do that. Or they don't think they do because no one's explicitly said, hey, Mr. Engineer, you can write that policy. If you need to take 4 hours next week, go ahead and do the work.
Funny that you say that because we start every conversation all the way from a cold call to onboarding to boot camp to whatever. Every one of our conversations starts with, do you have a human? Have you empowered them to do the work? Have you given them the authority to do the work? And have you shut up and let them alone to actually go do the work?
Mm.
Right. I know it sounds a little harsh, but that's the reality, right? Because if you don't make the time to do it right, you'll never make the time to do it over.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing you want to do is be in the middle of and build the engine while you're flying. No. So we always stress, do you have a human? Did you empower them to do the work? Yeah, they can learn, they can train. Did you give them the authority to actually do the work? And did you make sure that they put time on their calendar that they're getting paid for to remove distractions and actually do the work?
Mm-hmm. Amen.
And it sounds big and scary. And I'll anecdote, and then we'll get into our key takeaways. ADHD, all the things, squirrel, and being a squirrel, right? You get it. Like, we're all like that. And so one of the things that I had to do personally, back up August, September, whatever it was, I completely rewrote my life. And I time blocked every 2 hours of my day. From 7 to 7, that's kind of when I'm at my best. Yes, I do work 12 to 14-hour days. Welcome to startup life. And I time blocked 2-hour increments. And the minute I did that and stayed in that habit, stuff got done. I could actually stand back at the end of the day and be like, oh my God, look at all the things I actually accomplished in business outcome. Like, the point that I'm trying to make for us MSPs and those that are watching this or rewatching this, structure your day, block out some time, do the hard things when you're fresh or whatever time, like block hours. As much as I hated thinking about it, worked for me, and maybe it will work for others too. Something to consider. So, Ryan, we're coming down into our last 3 or 4 minutes here. We always like to leave our MSPs with the key takeaway. So do you have a key takeaway?
Yeah, I got a few, but I would just try to keep it simple here and say that I'm going to steal a word that you love, Tim, and one that I love. Authorize your people to make you defensible. What does that mean? Make sure that there's a clear policy and an operating procedure documented on the processes that you need to deliver the managed services that you're selling. Mm-hmm. Make sure there's a guide. And if there's not, you should stop and find the leaders and find the boots on the ground gals and guys that are actually executing the work. And like Tim, like you said, give them a moment of clarity and say, look, you're allowed to work on this. I need you to work on this, and make it important enough that it does get to go on the work calendar. You do get to get paid to do this. I don't expect my guys to write company documentation at home on their own time. That's wrong. And anybody that's doing that, that's not right. So I think you just got to authorize your people, become defensible, and going through that painful process of documenting things, you will learn where you're really good and efficient, and you will learn where you have some coverage gaps and where you have some inefficiencies. Mm-hmm. And those are the moments that you level up. When you close those out and you start to really understand, you become defensible, you become scalable, and things, your clients end up with a much smoother service at the end of the day, right? They get service delivery becomes consistent, expectations are clear. We all know who's supposed to be doing what. And at the end of the day, I think that's what everybody wants. I want to know what I'm doing when I come in today.
That's awesome. Really good thoughts there. I'm going to make mine pretty simple, right? The key takeaway when I think about common requirements for cyber insurance providers is have them. That's it. Do the work. Have the EDR, MDR, SAT, mouthful of acronyms, policy. Have the stuff. It ain't that hard. You're probably 80% of the way there already. So for the MSPs listening, you can do this, right? It's easy-ish. I get it, selling to your customer. But when I think of what are the common requirements for cyber insurance, have the things. And oh, by the way, it is really good business practices, even if we're not talking about cyber insurance. So that's my big key takeaway. Get the things, do the work. And coming up here in December, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's December already. This is a topic about, something really near and dear to my heart. We hear this and deal with this a lot, is, GRC automation. And my bullshit, yeah, I'm going to say the word. There are a lot of companies out there claiming that they can automate GRC. And so for those of you that don't know, Richard is a pretty well-known staple in the industry, has done a lot of work around not just GRC, but many tools in the space. So I'm really excited to get Richard on. What did I do? There we go. I clicked the wrong damn button. There we go. Richard will be with us on December 18th, and that will be the last one of the year. We're ending it on a bang, and we're calling out all those enterprise things that claim GRC automation. And I have the proof to back it up of where it actually is and can be done and where it's bullshit. So join us December 12th. I'm really pretty excited, and it's something that's been on my mind and dear to me. And anyway, so we're pretty excited about that one. And then January is around the corner. So we thank you and appreciate all of you that have watched us and joined in and commented week after week after week after, every 2 weeks. Ryan, always a pleasure. It's been a great, season here at Risk to Revenue and MSP Thought Leadership. Always enjoy your insight. So, hey, 2026, right around the corner. Nope, you're muted, my friend.
Thanks,
Ryan.
Tim. Yeah, sorry. Nicely said, Tim. Again, pleasure's been mine. Appreciate everybody here that did tune in, listen in to us. Hopefully you picked up some golden nuggets. I know I got a couple of messages from you guys out there along the way, so definitely worth the time. Love to share and be part of the community. So Tim, thanks again for hosting, and happy Turkey Day to everybody out there next week. Hopefully you get some time off.
Yeah, enjoy, everybody. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you in 3 weeks.
Subscribe now.